I'm just curious that you're running in Florida as a Republican and you are anti-Trump and clearly, I'll say anti-Jewish because you don't like the term anti-Semite, but you're clearly anti-Jewish, anti-Trump, running in Florida as a Republican. It doesn't add up like you really have a chance to win this. Why would you throw yourself into this race with all that against you?
So I don't like racism. I don't like supremacist mindset. And I think that's exactly what you have with Randy Fine. And I am against everything that he stands for. I don't like putting a foreign nation before America. Look, I don't want to be a congressman. I don't want to be in government. I want to be free diving on a beach.
You're running for Congress.
Because nobody's doing it. Our country's being run by pedophiles. Like, nobody's operating the best interests of America.
Not everybody has access to 100-chick harem in a desert island. What can guys do to get that pre-selection going?
Okay, so pre-selection is basically like women believing that other hot women want to sleep with you. So, jealousy would be them being jealous of other women and seeing it. Pre-selection is kind of like, I don't know, if a girl sees that you have 4 million Instagram followers, she's just going to assume that girls want to fuck you, right? Because you have a level of fame, whatever. And so I think pre-selection, and then there's visual forms of it. Like, I would show up at the club with 2 or 3 girls that were sitting on my lap that I had hooked up with, that were trying to kiss me, all this stuff. And then women would just come up. I could literally just do a come here and go fuck a girl in the bathroom without even talking to her sometimes because the pre-selection was so strong.
You called your opponent this fat Jew. So he's not from Israel, but you called a guy in Florida this fat Jew. How is that not anti-Semitic?
Well, he's a Jewish supremacist, and he puts Israel before America, and I think that he should be tried for treason.
This fat Jew is anti-Semitic.
Yes,
Dan.
I mean that's what you say, but how about
that's
every single time
that's what
Muslims?
I know. I don't say
it.
I know
he
it.
literally talks about how Muslims are lower than dogs. So is that Islamophobic?
Yes, it is, and that wouldn't be. That's not appropriate for him to say either. If he had said that.
But he does all the time, and he tweets that, and he's a senator.
There's a law in place that says if you want to have a contract with the state government, you have to certify that you do not support or participate in a boycott of Israel. You can boycott the United States and other states. You can boycott North Carolina. You can boycott Norway or Indonesia or Peru. You just can't boycott this one country, Israel. And I actually profiled a woman who had sterling job performances in Texas where she was a speech pathologist in Austin School District, but she supported a boycott of Israel and she got fired. This is unbelievable that as citizens of the United States, if you want to contract with the state, you have to certify you don't participate in a boycott or support a boycott of a foreign country. There's no similar laws for Palestinians because the power center in our governments and in our financial private sector power centers are obviously far more pro-Israel than anything else.
Yeah, baby, it's episode 77 of The Whiners on April 9th, 2026. Jeff Norman and my beautiful and talented co-host, Morgan Blythe, with you as we always are. Our other beautiful and talented co-host, Ryan Milton, is out tonight. He has a very important pedicure appointment that couldn't be moved, so we're going to soldier on without him. And welcome back to the Whiners for the second time, Aaron Baker, who's running for Congress in the 6th Congressional District in Florida. And he says he can't hear us. Well, maybe log out and log back in. Well, hold on.
Yeah, StreamYard issue.
Do you have his phone number? Mm-hmm. Okay. Tell him to, do you know how to find the speakers down below with the gear thing? That would be one thing to do, and make sure he selects the right speaker, or just log out and log back in.
Okay.
I don't know what happened. He was. We were talking to him before the show started, and all was fine.
Hi, Morgan. I can hear you, but I can't hear Jeff.
You can't hear me. Well, I'm a very important person. I'm definitely in the top 2. Well, want to try logging?
I can hear you right now, Morgan, but I cannot hear Jeff.
Can you hear him? Can he hear you in StreamYard or on the phone?
He can hear me in on the Zoom.
Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
All right. Want to tell him to log out and log back in and see if
Yeah,
that's
try
all right?
logging out and then logging back in.
Okay.
All right. Hello, folks. Don't worry. This is sort of a professional operation.
I'll tell you what,
prove that.
StreamYard has been giving me issues too, Jeff.
Yeah?
The other streams that I do, yeah.
All right. Well,
What it is.
in the meanwhile, in honor of Ryan, who's out, as I said, getting his feet put into shape with a here's Aaron.
Perfect.
Right? Okay.
Okay. Very technical. Log out and log in. See, I went to
Alt Control Delete.
podcasting. Yeah.
I don't understand it either, but yeah, I was just telling Jeff that StreamYard's been giving me issues too. So hopefully that's the only one of the show.
It's a good thing I went to podcasting school to learn how to solve that. Anyway, when we spoke with you a few weeks ago, or maybe it was months ago, I don't know anything about time. Maybe it was 5 years ago. We were talking about how you're going up against Randy Fine, who Dan Bilzerian refers to as a fat Jew. And now the news is, I mean, I'm sure there's other news too, but this is going to impact the race, and we'd like to hear from you. How so? Dan Bilzerian, who we saw in the opening video, and there he is again.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to look for the equivalent photo from you, Aaron, to see your physique. Every candidate for Congress now has to have a topless photo,
including Randy Fine. Yes.
Yeah, and also I need you to post with some of your friends, so you get a feel on who you socialize with. That's really how we get to know candidates nowadays. So I really didn't even know who Dan Bilzerian was until Morgan schooled me on him today. For the sake of our audience, why don't you tell them who he is and how does it impact the race that he has jumped in?
Well, he's a social media personality. He claims to have gotten his money through gambling, but I guess there is speculation that he also came from a very wealthy family. He's big on some controversies that he's had is that he's claimed to be a Navy SEAL, but his whole persona is really gambling, guns, booze, and young women. So I think that pretty much sums it up. He also doesn't even own any property in the state of Florida, which I'm sure Aaron is aware of.
Claims that he was a Navy SEAL. Isn't that the sort of thing that's pretty easy to verify?
Exactly. Yeah. So that was a big controversy with him, is that he claimed to be a Navy SEAL. Apparently he went to the Spuds school. Pardon me if I'm saying that incorrectly. But he didn't finish it. It was a day before, I guess he would have been turned into a Navy SEAL. He was, I guess, taken off the team for a violation in the shooting range. That's what I know.
So other than it's more fun for us now, Aaron, what does this mean for you as far as the race for Congress in Florida?
It changes nothing for me. I've spoken to Dan a couple of times. I think that, where I am very hard on Israel, I don't translate that to the Jewish religion. I think the Israeli government is absolutely genocidal maniacs that 75% of them should be in prison. But I don't translate that to Jewish people. So I think that's the distinct difference. I support a two-state solution. I don't support the Greater Israel Project. I think when someone asks you a question, does Israel have a right to exist? Well, the first response back needs to be, define your borders first. Are you talking about, does Israel have a right to exist in Lebanon? No. Does Israel have a right to exist in the West Bank? No. Does Israel have a right to exist in Gaza? No. Does Israel, do the Jewish people deserve to have a homeland? Okay, I can buy that argument. But at some point, I really believe that the United States has to step up. And I think what we've seen out of the Israeli government, Netanyahu, just over since the ceasefire with Iran was agreed to, that what's happened is the Netanyahu genocidal maniac government that they are has decided that, we're not happy with, not being able to bomb civilians, Christians, Muslims, other Jewish people in Lebanon. So I mean, I think that define borders, and then we can have a discussion. But I mean, you can't even have a discussion about, does a country have a right to exist? Where? I mean, does the United States have a right to exist in Mexico? No. Does Canada have a right to exist in Minnesota? No. Do Canadian people have a right to exist? Sure. That's no problem. Do American people have a right to exist? Do Israeli people or Jewish people? And there aren't just Jewish people in Israel. I mean, there are Christians and Muslims there also. It's this entire conversation has gone so far off the rails. However, I think the biggest distinction between myself and Dan is, I'll sit here and have a reasonable conversation with anyone about it and try to explain, in what I would consider at least reasonable, articulable terms, what makes sense to 90% of us.
But you don't think that people talk about splitting certain votes? So Randy Fine is a Zionist. You and Dan Bilzerian are both anti-Zionists. So I guess you'll probably get the obese Jewish vote, but I don't know how significant that is. The obese Jewish anti-Zionist vote, to be more.
So here's the thing. When I'm out, and I was in Flagler County last night, I'll be in Volusia County tomorrow night, and then I'll be in Tampa for a Gun Day Fun Day thing on Saturday. When I'm out and I'm talking to even Jewish constituents in this congressional district, they believe that Randy Fine has pushed the needle too far, even for them. It's like when, when AIPAC temporarily disavowed Randy Fine's comments, and temporarily took him off of their AIPAC registry. Well, you know how bad you have to be to get taken off AIPAC's registry. Pretty darn.
Was it for one particular thing he said or did, or for several things?
There's a litany of it. I think maybe the Muslim and the dogs comment, where a dog weighs more than
it was before that. It might have been we nuked Gaza, or we nuked Japan twice. Maybe we need to do the same thing here. It was one of those comments that pushed them over the edge, or starve away. I know I talked to a couple different organizations here in Florida that supported Fine during the last election, and they've told me in point blank terms, Aaron, for us, when someone posted the picture of the dead child, and he responded back, and they said, "How do you sleep at night?" And he said, quite well, actually, thanks for the pic. That was their red line, as well as then continuing to cross the red line was when Starve Away was his comment about the women and children in Gaza.
Well, certainly everybody, including the media, politicians, are using very crude language nowadays. I guess we can probably blame that, or if you like it, credit Trump to that. But the Dems, it seems like about a year or so ago, all decided to say the F word a lot more. And in the opening we saw on CNN, previously they didn't put the F word out on TV, and they did it in the opening. And Trump, speaking of genocide, you mentioned genocide earlier. Morgan and I, there was no swearing in this, but this is a very provocative tweet. Morgan and I had a little bit of a debate earlier today as to whether or not this was a threat to commit genocide, which would be a war crime, of course. Where do you stand on that, Aaron?
I had made a statement on that specific post because someone had asked me, how would you vote if you were in Congress? And my response back was, I would not vote to eliminate a a whole civilization tonight.
Mhm.
I mean, this, we've gone off the rails. This is not the United States of America that I grew up in. I mean, I grew up under President Reagan and Bush Sr., and then Bill Clinton. So, this is not
Right. Yeah.
Well, that's also the issue, Aaron, is that, Congress is supposed to, approve these actions. And now you have Congress who they're sitting on their hands. They can't even approve a War Powers Resolution Act, which doesn't say whether we're going to war or we're not going to war, but it puts the power back in their hands. So, that's something that I find just preposterous, that you have both sides of the aisle. They can't seem to get their heads together and and fulfill their duties that they sworn to do, which is, if there's a war, then we declare it, and you don't allow the president to unilaterally take these actions, which we've just allowed to do, and we can't pass a War Powers Resolution Act, which is just to say we still have the power. It's not even to say whether we go to war or not. I was talking to Jose recently, and I was saying that there needs to be a push for Congress to just bring up a declaration of war with Iran. You need to have every single congressional member take the stand if they're going to vote for this war or against this war, because it is a war. We can sit here and parse their words. It's a limited military action. It's a strategic strike here, strategic strike there. It's basically a war now that we're, I think the ceasefire basically lasted, 20 minutes, an hour? So where would you stand on that? If you were in Congress, was that something that you would be pushing for? We see, people like Thomas Massey, even Marjorie Taylor Greene, she's no longer in Congress, but she's coming out very strongly against these actions. Do you see yourself taking, a step to be on the floor, basically saying, okay, let's put our names by it,
Absolutely, 100%. And very early on, when we saw this coming down the pike, I was very heartened to see that there were a number of us in Florida on the Republican side. Myself, Mike Wilnow, that's running for the 11th Congressional District, Fishback, that's running for governor, John Frankman, who's running in the 1st Congressional District. There were a slate of us that came out and said, this is not the right path to go down. And I mean, obviously, I don't have the same intelligence that members of Congress or the president have. However, I can tell you we have accomplished absolutely not a damn thing in the last 6 weeks. I mean, what have we accomplished? We're going to pay $2 million to let tankers go through that didn't cost a penny before. I mean, our heads are not screwed on straight.
Right. Also, it's maybe a little late in the game to have a vote in Congress. Now, it might be all over with by the time that happens. Earlier today, Trita Parsi was on a podcast, and he thinks Trump is just going to walk away from it. He was answering a question about the significance of Israel still bombing Lebanon. Here's what he said.
I'm just wondering, if Israel refuses to do a ceasefire in Lebanon, if they keep attacking, if Trump won't rein them in, is Iran willing to go back to war over Lebanon?
Yes. But I think the way it will happen is this. I think Lebanon and the conflict there on Israel's refusal to stop attacking Lebanon is going to be the key reason as to why there won't be a deal between the United States and Iran. But instead, what I think is the most likely scenario is not that there's a return to war with the US and Iran. I think Trump will simply pull out, and we will have a non-negotiated status quo afterwards, in which Trump and the US is no longer in this war. The Iranians continue to control the Straits, but they don't get any sanctions relief, and they don't have an agreement with the US. The Israelis will then need to decide whether they're going to go at it alone or not. And I don't think they have the ability to, at least for a long period of time, be able to go at war with Iran without the United States.
What do you think, Aaron?
I mean, I agree, probably 95% there. There could be some type of safe face negotiations, but I think that with the continued bombing of Lebanon by Israel, I don't believe that was what the president had in mind when he said ceasefire. So they can go back and forth about, was it included, was it not included, whatever. I don't care. However, I believe that President Trump thought that, okay, we're all going to stop bombing each other. So what does this negotiated thing look like? I think I think the Netanyahu and the Israeli government have pushed the president to beyond the point where he's comfortable, where he still has some sense of what's going on in the world. And he realizes, people are talking about gas being, over $4 a gallon. The United States uses between gasoline and diesel about 530 million gallons a day. So, I mean, you can tell that that's costing us, roughly $700 million when you factor in diesel's a little bit, it's gone up a little bit more than gasoline. You're talking about a cost of $700 million a day to the American public. And that's not buying bombs or, defense. That's just extra cost because, I think that I've said it all along. I think that we were pushed into a corner again when President Trump originally went over and we flew the B-2s over and, we hit the nuclear facilities and then turned around and came back. I think that you could get at least probably 75% agreement on that of, okay, that's not a war. That's, one and done thing. Obviously, we've gone so far beyond that now where, we're talking about having an additional 50,000 troops in the region and, the Pacific Fleet and the Mediterranean Fleet there. This nonsense has got to end, and we have got to rein in the Israeli government. And I think they pushed President Trump too far.
Question from the audience for you, Aaron. H. Shear is asking if you've spoken with Marjorie Taylor Greene.
I have not.
See, that I think is an allusion to how elements of MAGA have been, turning against Trump. Here's a clip of Megyn Kelly reacting very strongly to that tweet about, ending civilization.
I don't know about you, but I am sick of this shit. I'm sick of it. Can't he just behave like a normal human? I mean, honestly, like the president, 3D, yes, shut up. Fucking shut up about that shit. You don't threaten to wipe out an entire civilization. We're talking about civilians just casually in a social media post. This is completely irresponsible and disgusting.
I agree.
She's not the only one.
No, and I think that you could get 75% of the United States population to agree with that statement. This is not 3D chess anymore. This is the Netanyahu government, the tail wagging the dog.
How are you navigating the MAGA shift? I mean, I guess you never really labeled yourself MAGA, if I'm not mistaken, but nonetheless, as compared to Randy Fine, you were much closer to. Well, no, what am I saying? He's MAGA, I guess, because of what a Zionist he is. But so anyway, the question is, how are you navigating these shifting winds?
Well, so what does "Make America Great Again" mean? What does that mean? That means that you're elected to make your constituents' groceries more affordable, their insurance more affordable. You're there to help with infrastructure. You're there to make America great again. So I don't care all of these fake representatives like Randy Fine that want to go around and saying that they're the ones that are the original MAGA crowd. These are the people that never voted for Trump in 2016, never supported him in 2016, were first to jump ship in 2020, and now somehow in President Trump's second term, they're the ones that are all of these elite rulers. I mean, this is completely 100% backwards.
Not to mention, what? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
It's people like me that, I'm going to the grocery store and I'm like, okay, well, today's Thursday, I get paid on Friday. Okay, between today, I'm the person that checks my bank account before I go to the grocery store. I get it. I get 72% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. It might seem like all, tulips and daffodils in springtime everywhere, but that's not what the American populace is living through. And until we actually have people in Washington, D.C. that understand that and want to go and work for the people, then, we're almost to the point now where we just need to burn it down and completely start over.
Yeah, it seems like it has gotten way out of control. I think one point too is that, Trump ran on being the peace president. That was the peace ticket, and that's why Tulsi Gabbard stuck her head behind him and said there would be no new foreign wars with President Trump, but there'll be nuclear war with Kamala. I think that's actually a quote that she said on the stage. And it's the American people have been duped. Then they're being sold this lie to now you have to be pro this engagement in Iran, and you're un-American if you're not. It's absolutely absurd that we have this now, and that this president literally ran with like the posters, the peace president. We had on, it was Lawrence Freeman, and I had suggested this, that there's this two-pronged fight on what really caused this war. You have this Israeli, people say that it's Israeli induced, Israeli controlled, but I think you also have this other strategic angle where, much like what we did in Venezuela right before we kidnapped Maduro, you had China's delegation was sent, or Xi Jinping had sent a delegation to conduct these contracts with Maduro. What we see right now with the Strait of Hormuz, where 20% of the oil comes out of there, there's transition from US dollar to yuan. So I kind of see this other strategic game that's being played where you have China actually being at the forefront of this war as well, and it's not getting recognized. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think in China's interest, they would love for, anything internationally, whether it's gold, silver, oil, platinum, rhodium, anything to be traded in their currency and taken out of US dollars. That is we really have to get our act together, because, things need to trade in US dollars. Once we start getting away from US dollars, then, where does it stop? Do we just decouple with the rest of the world? That's almost impossible.
That's where it would be heading. I think that's where I recognize that it's kind of this illusion of it's kind of all centered in the Middle East, but you also have these other players that strategically are winning right now. The only ships that are allowed to pass through the Strait of Hormuz are the ships that can prove that they're purchasing the oil in yuan. So you're already starting this progression of diverging from the US dollar, which normally held strong because you had the petrodollar with Saudi Arabia, our engagement with Israel and allowing them to conduct this genocide in Gaza. Saudi Arabia said they would no longer renew the contract to the petrodollar. So that's another strike to the hegemony of the US dollar. And now we have this happening right now. So I acknowledge that there's this larger gambit being played as opposed to this kind of narrow focus that Israel is pulling the strings. And that's kind of what I wanted to just get your take on a little bit.
Well, that's really a double-sided coin, because, you can say that Israel is pulling some of the strings, but there are other actors at play. Russia and China, certainly India and Pakistan as well. So, this is a global disaster that, it's like, how do we get ourselves out of this? And somehow, I think President Trump is at the point right now where he's like, okay, yeah, maybe we just need to take a step back from this, and we need to reset on an international stage. And I think that this could have played out differently except, all of us, every single one of us right now have, real-time pictures of what's happening in different regions, whether it's in Iran or whether it's in Beirut, or Gaza. I had another person, interesting story, another person that's running for Congress, and he said, if we both get elected, will you go on a congressional delegation to Gaza? He said it can't just be one of us. It has to be more than one of us, so that we can actually see, the destruction in person. And I said, absolutely, I would, because I think that what we see on TV, what we see on Fox News, NBC, it's such a tamed down version of the hell that this region of the world is living through. If you look at pictures of Beirut, 2023 and Beirut now, I mean, I just can't imagine. And, I understand that, you've got terroristic issues in some of these places. Well, the first thing is the Israeli government and Netanyahu should stop funding the frickin' terrorist. They've been funding Hezbollah and Hamas for, through proxies for 20 years. And with what? American tax dollars. We've created this nightmare that we're living in.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't subscribe to them using the terrorist ploy again. After what they did to Gaza, I don't think they have any credibility.
Of course.
Yeah, they think that it was a surgeon. He owned an apartment building that was leveled by Israel. He was one of the surgeons that worked on the it was the bomber, or the Boston bombers. One of the victims of the Boston bombers. He had worked on recovering their wounds, and he had an apartment in Lebanon, and it's just ceased to exist. All of his hard earnings, and he had made a post about it. And so you have essentially American citizens who are, in the thralls of Israel's kind of engagement over there. I think Randy Fine makes that comment where he says that there are 700,000 Americans that live in Israel. Well, there are Americans that live in Beirut. There were Americans in Gaza that also died.
Well, I was at University of Florida with Fishback last, I think it was one day last week, maybe last Tuesday. And, I said, what was the turning point, as far as when you started changing your mind about Israel? Because, it's fair to say that I'm, a year and a half ago, I was the Fox News Republican that just sits there and, just eats my bowl of Raisin Bran and, like, okay. And, believes, 95% of what Sean Hannity tells me. But for me, it was the Floridian, Mohammed Ibrahim, that was from Tampa, born in Tampa, that the Israelis said threw rocks at a convoy. That's something that's impossible to prove. Who threw this rock? Okay. But that crime aside, he was held in an Israeli prison for 6 months without any charges. And, first couple days, I'm like, okay, well, they're holding a U.S. citizen. Somebody's going to do something about this. And then
he was a child. He was 15 years old. Mm-hmm.
And you don't hear anyone speaking up about it. And then it came to pass that the three Republicans in Florida that said anything about it was myself, Mike Wilnow, and James Fishback, just the three of us. And that was it. You didn't have anyone else in the country in any elected position talking about the kid from Florida. He's from Florida, for heaven's sake. The Israeli court has a 99.97% conviction rate. And now, they're just going to start hanging people. I
Yeah.
mean, this is, but we're only going to hang one race of people. We're only going to hang Palestinians, no other race of people. I think Americans just need to take a step back and say, is this really, really what we want? With friends like this, who needs enemies?
Well, a few moments ago, you said in reference to the American political system, maybe we need to burn it all down and start all over again. And I don't want to be overly literal about what was obviously a figure of speech, but nonetheless, I'm wondering if you could be a little bit more specific about that.
I think out of the entire U.S. House of Representatives right now, you can count on one hand how many representatives that actually have the best interests of their people at heart. Yeah. And I think that you can count on one hand how many senators we have that have the best interests of the people at heart. For example, you take one of the gentlemen that is a sitting congressman right now that's running for governor of Florida. He went to Congress 5 years ago with a net worth of $81,000. 5 years later, his net worth is $4.8 million. You've never made over $178,000 a year in your life. I mean, the American people, at least, and here's the generational divide. I looked at the Massey poll in Kentucky today, and it was something like 78% of under the age of 30 support Massey. And then it went down from there, and it, steps down to then you get to the boomers, and Massey support is at like 35% amongst the boomers. I think that the younger generation is smart enough to do their own research, and they're smart enough to make their own decisions instead of sitting in front of Fox News and just believing whatever they're told, because that's not, that's not how they're raised. They're raised on their phones and able to do their own research. So do we actually need to take torches and burn down the U.S. Capitol? No, we don't need to take torches and burn down the U.S. Capitol. But I think that we're at a point right now where if we want to actually save this country and save our way of life, number one thing is we cannot let the amount of service that we pay on our debt exceed 25% of all expenditures. Right now it's 18, 19%. If that gets above 25%, that's the point of no return. We can't grow ourselves out of it. We can't, there's no such thing as prolonged double-digit growth. If you look at you go back to 1960 to now, we've only had 2 years of double-digit growth, and that was under President Nixon. It's never happened since, and we had some pretty good years under Bill Clinton with the .com boom and all that. But this is very quickly becoming something we cannot grow our way out of. And
well, Morgan mentioned earlier Jose Vega. Of course, she only said Jose as if he's like Madonna or Cher, known by only one name.
I guess that because I was loosely talking between you and Aaron.
I knew exactly who you meant because
well, you did, but maybe most of our audience did too. But I just want to make sure that everybody knows who she's talking about. Rob Lucero out in California is another candidate that we've backed on this show. I don't know if this is a good idea or not, but what I'm thinking is really what needs to be done is to change the mindset of the population. I mean, I guess having the right people in Congress is maybe the most effective way to change things in a big way, the sea change that we're all craving. But how do you get that? And is there any potential to somehow cooperating with other candidates like Jose Vega and Rob Lucero to try to project this idea of a new wave of Congress members?
So I've spoken to Jose on multiple occasions, and I said there are issues that we're not going to agree on. It's a different social demographic in the Bronx than it is in Daytona Beach, or St. Augustine. But there are areas where 100% I will work with him. We both understand the need for infrastructure. There are a lot of commonalities where it seems like right now in our government, everything that we work on are the 20% issues, and we have to force the other side to their hair's on fire, and we have to force these 20% issues through. Let's work on the 80% issues where we're all going to agree. Yes, I would love to end all foreign aid and put that money toward infrastructure in the United States.
Right, but Aaron, I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I want to make it clear. I'm talking about more than just saying, "Hey, you'll cooperate." I'm talking about like branding. You remember the squad? AOC and the other three people, Omar and whoever they are. They kind of were branded in a particular way. That's what I'm talking about. Is there any? It may be a bad idea, but that's what I'm asking you to consider.
It's a coalition.
I think what you're saying is the AZAPAC crowd, because we're all endorsed by AZAPAC.
Right. That's one way to brand you guys. Yeah.
That's we're the anti-Zionist pack, where we truly believe in our hearts that we want to do what is best for this country first before helping anybody else. You can say whatever you want about that. So let me tell you, Jeff, how we're going to do that. So there's an offshoot of AZAPAC that we're going to have kind of our own mini convention, where we're going to have speakers. We're going to have about 200 attendees, and that's going to be the first weekend in May.
Okay.
Okay. Is that
I forgot about AZAPAC. I mean, that is a way to brand it. For the benefit of the audience who's not familiar with them, can you describe AZAPAC?
Sure. So AZAPAC is simple. It's you don't take money from AIPAC. What it stands for is Anti-Zionist America PAC, Political Action Committee. So you don't take money from AIPAC. Basically, you don't agree with the Greater Israel Project, and you support some type of two-state solution. And I think that's probably, if you're talking about Democrats and Republicans under the age of 60, you probably, that's an 80-20 issue.
Right.
Yeah. Well, the thing with AZAPAC, so you have like Track AIPAC, which that's predominantly only Democrats. And they're also very co-opted. They endorse, a lot of the status quo politicians.
Sure.
But
Richie Torres.
AZAPAC, I'm sorry.
Or yeah, I know what you mean.
But AZAPAC is like a broad coalition. Well, they'll have people from Republican Party, Green Party, Democratic Party, Independent Party. It's this very broad coalition. I was speaking to someone the other day, and they brought something up that was very powerful, and it's kind of lingered in my mind. Is this anti-Zionist movement? Yes, that's great, and it needs to happen. But kind of what you alluded to before is this infrastructure build. What if we make a coalition where this anti-war movement? Yes, but it also has this connotation of kind of the 1960s, 1970s hippie kind of esque movement that is very isolating in some sense. But if you have this pro-development coalition where we have, like Jeff was saying, the Rob Lazaro from California, he's very big into high-speed rail as well. I know you've spoken about that as well. Jose's spoken about that as well. You have this coalition of people who are calling attention to the lack of infrastructure the American have been subjected to for generations, while money has been going to the Pentagon and being funneled to private contractors. I think that is something that's very powerful and will sustain even past the fall of the Zionist movement.
So another PAC is a new policy PAC, which a new policy PAC was, again, to your point, it was mainly just Democrats kind of like track AIPAC. However, you know how hard it is to crack a cage-free egg sometimes, where you're just like almost have to beat it on the counter, or free-range eggs rather. I was able to crack through a new policy pack. I was the first Republican candidate listed on their platform. So
That's awesome.
if you just keep at it, and sometimes you wake up in the morning and you feel like you want to beat your head against a brick wall and you're not making any progress, it can be done. I had multiple conversations where they're like, we've never supported a Republican before. And I said, okay, what position do I have that you disagree with? And, I finally just,
It's a
pounded it
hard
in their
habit to
head.
break.
Right.
I can't remember what it is. I remember seeing it or hearing it a while ago. The percentage of people who vote for the party exactly as the same as their parents did is so high, and that's all they think about. It's their identity. It's hard to get somebody to let go of their identity.
But to your point, Jeff, and to yours also, Morgan, there are good candidates out there that we might not be aligned with on every issue, and it might not be our party. But I mean, Jose Vega, do I think Jose Vega cares more about the people of the Bronx than Richie Torres? Absolutely, 100%. I mean, and would I work with him in Congress? Absolutely, 100%. I think that this is more of a common sense issue. And until the Republican Party transitions back to a point of common sense, and we quit, hearing the Epstein files are a hoax, and then Melania Trump comes out today and says that we want to have congressional hearings on the Epstein files. Those two messages are not parallel. Okay,
Yeah.
We need to get the train back on the tracks, and we need to do what's best for the American people and quit trying to sell, for lack of better terms, a load of horse manure to the American populace.
Watch your language, sir. What was that event in May you mentioned? Can you just tell us about that a little bit more?
Yeah, I can get back to you on that, because they're still planning it, and I know where it is and I know when it is. Because basically all of us are going to be in the same place at the same time. There's some security concerns there.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, we won't force you to say it on here.
Will this crowd be there?
I don't know. I don't know if Dan's going to be there or not.
Aaron, I'm curious. Were you familiar with Dan Blazarian before his name was put into the race?
So I first spoke to Dan back in December. I had to go back through my phone and look and see when I spoke to him. I first spoke to him back sometime around Christmas time, and I knew him. I knew that he was a poker player. Beyond that, I didn't know. I didn't know the 1 bazillion Instagram followers, or anything about his lifestyle, or how much money he had, or anything like that. I just knew because I've played some poker tournaments years ago, but haven't really played any in the last really 15 years. So I knew the name, but I had to dig a little bit to figure out who it was.
Okay, not to pry, but he spoke to you in December. I presume it was to say that he was thinking about running? Or is that something that you wouldn't like to divulge into?
At that point,
Morgan has a lurid interest in this guy. I think she's fallen under his spell.
That's certainly not it. No, I'm irritated by the fact that this man is running in a race that he doesn't own property in the entire state, where he could have used his influence otherwise. I find it to be a vanity.
What difference does it? He looks like this. That's all that matters.
He was born in Tampa.
He was born in Tampa.
Yeah. So
Okay, well that's a saving grace,
me-
but he owns property in Las Vegas and Bel Air. And it just kind of screams elitist and
Right.
savior complex to me. But sorry.
Okay.
All right. Well,
so
before we say
first,
goodnight, Aaron, other than the issues we discussed tonight, is there anything you want the audience to know about your platform?
I was just reading back through chats. So I'll tell you the Dan Bilzerian story. Okay,
All right.
so we spoke December the 18th, and he had said, "Hey, Aaron, I hear good things about you. Let me know if you have a few minutes to chat." So then we had chatted
Friendly.
back then, and then we chatted again March before he made the announcement that he was before he made the announcement publicly that he was going to run, which I wanted him to run for a different seat, but that's not what he wanted to do.
Okay.
Did he give you any dating tips?
He did not give me any dating tips or any workout tips or any tips to make to have a Florida mullet. I don't know that I could pull that off.
All right.
All
right. This guy is fascinating, but again, let me restate my question before we close off tonight. Is there anything else about your platform that you would like voters to know about?
I'm just a voice of reason. I'm not,
okay.
I'm not, not everything is party line. It's a lot more like Thomas Massey says. Am I going to vote with the Republicans? Well, probably about 91% of the time, as long as they're not raising our debt, protecting pedophiles, or starting wars. And I think that pretty well sums it up. Am I blind loyal to a president? No, I'm blind loyal to the Constitution of the United States, first and foremost, above anything else. When you're sworn into Congress, you put your hand on the Bible and you swear an oath to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. That doesn't mean 50% of the Constitution, 75% of the Constitution. It means the Constitution of the United States. So help you God. What people should know, I still need help. If you live anywhere in this region, St. Augustine to Daytona Beach, over to the middle of the state, volunteers are great. We've got quite a few. I think we're up to a little bit over 70 volunteers so far.
That's awesome.
We're going to start knocking doors. However, what has thrown us for a loop is that we're going to be redistricting, and we're not going to know where the congressional district is until sometime, probably the end of May.
Oh my goodness.
In the meantime, if you go to my X page, or if you go to my website, you can download the candidate petition.
I want to actually help people, help you get people to remember it, because I see there's two different ways people get to the same website. Do you like Aaron for FL6, or do you rather promote this one?
Well, FL Aaron is, that's just so much easier to remember. If you just,
it goes to the same
Aaron,
place.
It goes to the same place, yeah.
Right. Florida Aaron. Yeah.
Aaron.
Florida Aaron. And then if they want to find you on X, it's Aaron for FL6, right?
6. Yes. So in the meantime, anyone in the state of Florida, because of redistricting, can sign a petition. We're almost there, but we still have a few hundred left to go. And the petitions, very straightforward. It's, just one single sheet. Print your name, fill out some details. And if you have a group of 5 or 6 people, mail them back to me. They can be, like I said, anywhere in the state of Florida. So it doesn't have to be just in the 6th congressional district, which is an occurrence that only happens in years of redistricting. So that's a very easy way to help. $10,440 to get on the ballot, or the petitions. So basically, each petition that somebody returns saves me about $4.
Wait, I'm so sorry. Back up. You said it's you can either pay to be on the ballot, or you sign signatures.
Yes, either or. $10,440, or because of redistricting, 2,564 signatures. And we've got
Is that
about
unique to
2,000.
Florida, or do other states give you ballot access if you just cough up some money?
I've never heard of that.
I can tell, and that's why I'm asking if anybody else does it.
Yeah. So I was talking to Tyler in South Carolina, and they don't have an option to collect petitions. They, I think, just have to pay like $3,700. So I guess it's,
Is that the sole qualification? Just simply paying the fee and filling out some paperwork?
Yeah, no signatures.
I mean, back when I ran in the special election in January of last year, I simply just wrote a check, and that's it.
Wow. Wowie kazowie. Florida, baby.
That's why we have 64 people running for governor right now.
Oh, really? I suppose there's at least 64 people in Florida who can afford to run.
But Fishback has taken that. I mean, he's all over the place that I see.
He has, and I'll be with him. I know we have an event in the Villages next week. We have an event at Stetson University, and we have an event at the University of Central Florida, all within the next 2 weeks. So anytime that he's in this region, quick funny story. Last Monday night, he put out a thing that he was going to be at the Taco Bell on South Orange Avenue in Orlando. And I had told my group of people, I said, you better get there early. And they're like, what are you talking about? You're going to get to Taco Bell early? And I said, you don't understand. And I had two other volunteers there with me. We got there at 7 o'clock or 7:30 for an 8:30 event. Whatever it was, we got there an hour early. And, if you see any of the pictures, I'm standing in the back on top of a chair, and the room is so packed. I mean, we're standing there like sardines, and it's 85 degrees in the room. And I've never seen a movement like it. And, where people are standing outside watching through the windows just to be able to see him. I have never seen anything like it.
I've been watching him. I'm a fan of his, the things that he's saying, speaking out about mass surveillance, speaking out against our engagements.
Absolutely.
With Israel and, this new engagement with Iran. I'm a proud supporter that he makes it through and he takes out the Ron DeSantis.
I mean, he's the only one talking about Fourth Amendment violations with flock cameras. I mean, I don't hear anyone else talking about flock cameras and is that a Fourth Amendment violation? Well, there's a judge in Florida that ruled that speed cameras are a Fourth Amendment violation. Mm-hmm. Okay, I mean, I'll buy that. So.
I mean, you got to nip it in the bud before it gets way out of control, and that's kind of the sense 100%. That we're at.
I mean, we're literally living the book 1984 right now.
Yeah. Yes, I agree. I saw that there was a clip of him. Someone had showed him the book, and he made it more into his stump speech. So, I've been watching him. Very impressed with this, what he's talking about.
All right, Aaron, thanks for joining us. And please give us the details on that May event. Sounds intriguing.
I will.
Yeah,
maybe we can all hang out there and press the flesh and eat and drink and be merry together.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Aaron. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Always.
Right.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Thanks for joining us. Bye-bye. I forgot to mention, hang on a second. Let me change that. That's better. But you like this, right? There you go.
I'm a big fan of this one, yeah.
Big fan. Big fan. I forgot to mention, I'm sure everybody's dying to know that I'm having a Spanish wine, I think for the first time on this show, a Tempranillo, and it is damn good. And you are consuming what tonight, Morgan?
Amaretto.
Amaretto.
Yeah, you started something, Jeff.
Isn't that what you had when we had dinner in Wilmington?
Yes, and it was really nice. I didn't know that it's really nice taste in liqueur. So I'm a fan.
All right. Very good. Very good. All right. Well, let's call it a show because I want to go put to the test the dating tips that Dan Bilzerian has said and see if it works. Next week, I'll give you all a report on that.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Don't get into trouble, Jeff.
All right. Thank you, Morgan. Stay sweet, my dear. And thanks to our beloved audience. Join us Tuesday night for Probable Cause. Wednesday night, Ask the Inspector. And we will be back next Thursday for the Whiners. Everything starts at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Till then, take care, everybody.